Part of the settlement included a non-disclosure agreement, which prevented me from ever discussing what happened between me, Mr. Ailes, or the other executives whom I had named in my suit. I cannot tell you the pain of being silenced and unable to share your trauma with anyone, especially with other survivors. This is what NDAs do. They isolate. They prevent survivors from sharing their experiences or warning others about an abuser in their midst. They protect predators by covering up toxic behavior. This is not the kind of society any of us wants to live in, either on my side of the border or on yours.
That incident shrank to a very few sentences in the column, and I could only report on NIGARD's version of events. Why? Because the three women had settled. The Human Rights Commission then did not proceed with the case, and the women all signed non-disclosure agreements. That was in 1997. NIGARD was then 56, and today he's 80. In the ensuing quarter century, he assaulted multiple women and girls in the US, Canada, and the Bahamas. Canadian and US authorities have accused him of sex trafficking and racketeering. Now imagine a world without NDAs, where the victims are not gagged. Imagine a quarter century ago if those three brave women who went to the Manitoba Human Rights Commission could have spoken freely to me. This is the damage of NDAs. It gives free rein to predators. It creates more victims and more ruined lives.
I remained with my employer until I retired in 2018. On my last day of employment, the union president hugged me and stated that what management had done was almost criminal. On management's side, there were no well wishes, which was not surprising. I had been silenced by them through the many years, both formally and informally, through various means ranging from the signing of confidentiality agreements to marginalization to bullying. Non-disclosure agreements, unless used for the purpose of protecting intellectual property, often hurt the party who needs the most protection. In my case, the forced silence put upon me only served to empower those who chose to malign me, damaging me both personally and professionally.
It was my only option. There was no justice in the 90s. There still is no justice. I had the choice of going for the money. I mean, I was 25 years old, 3 children. We had a mortgage up to the eyeballs. I needed this $30,000 to cover the therapy, or we were going to sink as a family. At that point, I had to sign that NDA.
My last years at Digital Health ended up being a terrible and traumatizing workplace experience. I started to experience racism as far back as 2008 during the residential school apology. I was terminated on March 2nd, 2021. I was offered $40,000, then $60,000, and then $80,000 with $5,000 in manner of dismissal charge damages. I have not signed any release papers, which include a non-disclosure agreement, and have yet to receive proper compensation and recognition of these horrible experiences. NDAs isolate victims who are prohibited from sharing information about their situations and can hinder the healing process after an assault or other forms of abuse. Because the allegations are not made public, the agreements protect the perpetrators of these abuses, leaving them free to continue their behavior. One problematic trend is this idea of using NDAs in almost all incidents. For example, using NDAs to prevent women or men from speaking out about alleged history of inappropriate or abusive behavior.
As a child, I did not believe I would get any justice. And even going through that process, I didn't really feel that I was ever going to get justice. Basically, the lawyer said that, and I also kind of knew as well. I was offered a $50,000 settlement, and I was told that both my mother and myself would have to sign a non-disclosure agreement. I refused to have my mother sign the non-disclosure agreement because she was not a part of this. I had one day to decide that by my father's counsel. I refused, and I find that a little victory for myself at that time. I had to wait 3 weeks, and then they said, okay, we'll just want you to sign the release and non-disclosure agreement. At that point, I just wanted it to end. It was so difficult, and I couldn't go further. And also, I had no full idea what I was signing. So I did not know that it was going to be permanent. My father died in 2015, and even though he is dead now, I am still held to that non-disclosure agreement.
When people are fired or they are abused or they are sexually assaulted or they are harassed, the payment is for the bad behavior. As legislators, I hope that you will not allow any more to have payment for silence. They make these two elements sort of be the same thing. And it's so important that they have to pay because they treated you badly. But don't elide this with a gag order.
Just having a law prohibiting NDAs will create an entirely new culture of accountability. So it's not about us needing laws to punish the people causing these harms. Just knowing that this information cannot be suppressed forever in a legal agreement might be just enough to change behaviors within workplaces, within corporations, whatever it is. Not being able to do that anymore, people's behaviors will change. And that's why it's so important that this act pass.